Presidential Wealth Management.
Here's something to think about. Taxes may be the largest bill you pay every year for the rest of your life. And there are tools within the tax law that can help you change the amount of that bill. Another thing, an IRA is an IOU to the IRS. Think about that. When you put money in your 401k or your IRA, you deducted the amount you put in from the amount you were going to pay taxes on that year. Then that was invested and it grew and it was never taxed. An IRA is taxed when you pull the money out. You have no control over that. The thing you do have control over is when do you pull the money out? The answer? We'll tell you what that answer is today. Why are we talking about this now? Because this bear market may well be a tool that you can use to help lower your taxes for the rest of your life. I'm Keith Weinman, Vice President and Advisor at Presidential Wealth Management with Taylor Leary, Certified Financial Planner and Advisor at Presidential Wealth Management.
Awesome, Keith. Thank you so much for the intro. It's always fun to have everybody on today, and looking forward to the content that we're going to go over. A couple of housekeeping items that I just want to review with the audience. So if you're wondering what's over on the right side of your screen, I'll just go through a couple things. The first thing I want to mention is the chat box feature that we have. This is an interactive conversation. Yes, Keith and I kind of have the stage here, but we want to open it up to you. I will tell you that the chat box is private, so it's not going to be an open forum where other people in the audience can see those questions. It's just going to be us. So you're fully anonymous. We might reference you by your first name, but that's it, just to acknowledge that you asked the question. So we're going to be touching on those specific questions that you have. We know we can't cover everything about what we're going to talk about today, but we certainly can cover a lot. But if you have specific questions, use the chat box feature to ask those questions throughout the webinar today. We will also open up a time at the end to have a Q&A to have that conversation as well. I'll also bring to light the polling ability that we have. This is another great way to have that interaction and that engagement with you all. And so we will have several polls or questions that we will be asking you throughout. So if you'll take a look at that, you'll be prompted. I'll make sure that you know, and that'll be over on the right side of your screen. And so in there, it'll just be a yes, no, or maybe there'll be a couple, 3 answers there for you. So play along with us. We'd love to hear what you have or what your thoughts are on the questions that we're going to be asking today. And then finally, how to connect. There isn't a chance to connect with us. We will give you the email and the phone number for our offices. And we also, over on the right side, have an offer. We want to schedule some time with you to get those answers or those questions answered on your specific situation. A lot of the times the questions that people ask are very specific in nature and only are associated to them. They're not very general. And so what we want to do is make sure that each and every one of your questions are answered in an effective and deep way, so we can make sure that you are better on your path to financial freedom. Keith, what are we going to be talking about today?
Each week, we're going to try to give you some context of where we're at, because that's very important. There are 2 things you need to know all the time: where you are and where you're headed. Well, where we're headed from here is a pretty good guess, but we'll shed some light on that as well. But you should be headed toward your long-term retirement income plan, regardless of whatever we're going through. And right now we're going through something that has never happened before. It really is a time that will go down in history. And contrary to what most people think, who don't just back away and look at it and get some information, there are opportunities. There are real opportunities. And we're going to hit on some of those for you today. And then the issue of the week, we're going to go back to taxes. That largest bill, maybe the largest bill that you pay for the rest of your life. We're going to show you the power you have to change that. And let's see, we're about 3 minutes in, and we'll wrap it up in 60 minutes. Taylor.
Fantastic. So we talked about how to connect, but we also just want to bring to light the power of having a conversation. We realize that, the media is this echo box of ideas, and you go there and there's a lot of headline risk, and it's just a lot of noise. And we recognize that there are a lot of people out there with questions, concerns, uncertainty, and fear. And one of the best ways to unpack that fear and unpack that uncertainty is to have that conversation with a trusted advisor. And Keith and I we really take that very, very, we don't take it lightly, is this idea that we want to have that individual touch with each and every one of you. So you might be asking, who would this be for? So this is going to be for somebody that has a lot of questions about maybe their individual plan. Maybe they did a portfolio that they put together a financial plan several years ago, and now they're trying to figure out, after they lost 20, 30%, what direction do we go here? It also might be for the DIY, the do-it-yourselfer, who is saying, you know what, I don't know what direction to take here. There are some great names out there that might be at discounts. There might be some challenges out there still to become. And so one of the things that Keith and I will put out there for you is just to give that idea of what direction do you want to go, and how can you maybe recalibrate your financial plan. So if you think that this is something that would be good for you, click the offer page. And what that will do is it'll take you to our presidential page, and you'll have the ability to sign up for a one-on-one call with one of our advisors, whether it's Keith or myself or some of the other advisors that are in our office that are very knowledgeable and very caring about their clients and the people they serve in their community. So with that, I want to jump in to our very first poll, and this will kind of be a segue into the entire conversation. So I'm going to put this up. And I want to see what people are thinking. So with the current economic situation, do you think the market will fall further, or have we seen the worst of it? So, back on March 23rd, we saw the lows of the lows that we've seen over the last few months, for the last, few years, frankly. And so that was a massive concern from, I guess it was middle of February to that March 23rd date. It was about 4.5 weeks, and the Dow dropped about 37%. It was the fastest drop to that level that has ever occurred. And then on the 24th of March, they had the best day in 87 years of stock market history. So you have that coupled with massive challenges, big debt drop days, and then you also have that with very big up days. Keith, what are you seeing? I know you do the radio every morning, and so your finger is on the pulse every day. What are you seeing out there?
I see what I interpret as big investors using the market as the discounting tool that it is, and letting the information slip to me, the little guy, that they think this market will be higher 6 months from now.
Yeah.
Well, that's in the past couple weeks. And what those people are doing, what those pros are doing, is they're taking advantage of finding bargains. They're finding buying opportunities in what some have called a generational buying opportunity that was set up by what Taylor said just a minute ago. This market dropping to what on the Dow? 18,581?
I believe that was it, yes.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I want to just bring to light for you is the veracity, or just how quickly and how violent this drop was. So you'll notice this is a year or a 3-month window into the Dow. And you'll see that, this was right around at the beginning here, February like 18th, roughly. And that was where we saw that peak of the Dow. And then all of a sudden things started to just crater from there. And it got very ugly. So Keith, are you familiar with the VIX? Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, boy, the volatility index.
Yeah. So would you explain to the audience what that is?
Well, in the simplest possible terms, it tells you how much tension there is in the market, how much it's measuring swings. It's measuring the strength, the power of, in the easiest way to say it, of indecision, nervousness. It is all that goes into making the market volatile. And when you think about, okay, what's volatile? Volatile is this, but large, this, not small. Market, remember, the market, if it could think, the thing it would hate the most is uncertainty. And so what we're talking about is sort of the Borg, the masses. What do the masses hate the most? Uncertainty. And that is when things get volatile, and that's represented by the VIX index.
Yes. So with the VIX, they also call it the fear index. And so I bring that to light because a lot of the times investors are driven by two core things. First is fear, and the second is greed. Well, over the last 6 or 8 weeks, it's definitely been driven by fear. The fear of the unknown, the uncertainty, the indecision, or just maybe lack of clarity of how do we go forward from here. If this is you, if you are one of those people that is maybe a little bit fearful of what the next step is, this is a time to have that conversation with a trusted advisor to make sure that your plan is going as you would like, and that the last or the latest upheaval in the market will not detract or take you off your rails as far as your path to financial success. So I bring this to light just because it's very interesting. Over the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks or so, the market's actually bounced back about 26%. And this actually keeps in mind that yesterday, the last few days have had some negative returns, but then today was just about flat for the day. So from our very bottoms, which was that March 23rd date, we've seen the market bounce back about 26% from there, which is pretty great. But I also want to be cautious about that because we're seeing some of the most unbelievable economic times that they're comparing what will potentially happen with all of these shut down businesses, kind of like the Great Depression. And so that's where I just bring to light this VIX index, because even though the VIX has come down significantly from its highs, it's still trading roughly in the 40s. And I say trading, that's just where it's at right now, where they're tracking it. That is about 2 times higher than what we'd expect it to be on a typical market. And when I say typical, what I mean by is, where the market's just bouncing around. And that would be, you see these little spikes here and right here, but you just see these big old mountains. This looks a lot like Mount Everest. And so when you see that, that likely means that there potentially could be more uncertainty, or at least more upheaval in the market in the near future. So that's certainly something to learn from this particular chart. Now, I want to talk about what we've seen here. We're seeing about 83% of our respondents. If you haven't responded to the poll, take some time right now. About 83% of the respondents are saying the worst is behind us.
Wow.
I find this to be fascinating because I did this very similar webinar, asked the same question on April 2nd. And on April 2nd, the numbers were completely flipped. Okay, we've seen now it's moving to 71-28. So I saw this completely flipped in that 78% of people felt like the market would fall further. So we've started to see the market kind of come back, and we've started to see people calm down a little bit, which is totally great. I love to see that. But it certainly is interesting because it's definitely messing with the psyche of the investor.
Taylor, I want you to do the dark room analogy you told me about, and then I want to show you something. I want to show you a head fake. I'll explain what a head fake is without saying a single word, okay?
Okay, I love it. So yes, I was having a conversation with a client the other day, and it just dawned on me the actions that are happening here in the market on a day-to-day basis are kind of wild. You know, we're up 2%, we're down 3%, we're up 1%. We're having these giant swings, and it seems to just have been normal. That's been the last 6 or 7 weeks where it's like, oh, market's down 1,000 points, no big deal. Like, what's going on? What was interesting is that when this whole thing started to kind of unravel, it was a lot like walking into a dark room from a very well lit room. So when you walk into a dark room, it's very difficult to see this. In fact, I did this the other night with my daughter. She was, up in the middle of the night, and I walked into a room and I couldn't figure out, there was toys on the floor, tripping over things. And that what was happening with the market when it started to fall. We started to trip over ourselves. A lot of investors like yourselves might have been, panicked and hitting the sell button when they maybe shouldn't have, and just kind of freaking out, not seeing where the real risks lie. But now that we've been in this thing for, the last month and a half or so, we're starting to adjust. Our eyes are seeing where the perils are. What's the opportunity? I look at what happened in the bond market, and from the early part of March until about that 23rd of March, you saw the bond market, and I use LQD as the investment grade bond index as kind of my proxy. It was down about 20% in that time frame. Bonds being down 20% is pretty unbelievable. You just don't typically see that. And so there was this mindset of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And all of a sudden, things started to rebound from the 23rd or 24th, and you're starting to see bonds rebound with them. So nothing was insulated from this volatility, but now we're starting to see things kind of get back to normal. And yes, the S&P and the Dow are down about 16, 17% year to date, but we're starting to see things that would be more stable investments to have that more stable keel-like approach that you would see on a boat, like bonds as an example. I want to hear about your head fake, Keith.
Okay, head fakes happen in a bear market. Okay, so what is a head fake? Now I'll show you what a head fake is without any words, without telling you what it is. You watching are the defense. I'm the quarterback. The ball is here, and the ball is the market. Okay? Here's the head fake. I look the head fake. I look that way. Everybody thinks the market's going that way, and instead the quarterback goes that way, and the ball, which is the market, goes that way.
Yeah.
And in most bear markets, there is a significant head fake. So the question becomes, is the rally that we've seen that Taylor just talked about, that 27 percentage point rally, which we're still in, arguably, is it a head fake or is it a turnaround for the market?
Yeah.
I don't have that answer. All we can do is put all our experience and knowledge and research and make an educated guess.
So one of the things that we've been looking at is where the next level, if we do have a down period, what that might look like. And so, Keith, you were talking about this recently in that, a couple of weeks ago, there was a lot of strategists out there saying that we're a lot smarter than myself, for sure. But saying 18.5, we need to test that again on the Dow. And that's really kind of where it seems like that number has raised to somewhere in the 20 to 21,000 number, as far as the number, the people that I've been reading here recently. What type of insight can you glean there?
Well, I listened to analysts that I've vetted over the years, and I'm very interested in their opinions. They're educated people. They deal in facts, and they're tempered with experience. And the latest thing that I'm hearing is that most bull markets have a double bottom. The question is, does the second bottom violate the first bottom? Or is it higher? Does it bottom in the second time higher than the first bottom? If it does that, that's an indicator to most analysts that the worst is behind us, just like our poll, just like you said in voting in our poll this morning or this afternoon. And so most think that, yes, we will go down again. Most are saying that we probably won't violate the first bottom. And I've seen one analyst that, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's saying we could see new record highs in the first half of 2021. Could see new record highs in the first half of 21. We don't know what's going to happen with a lot of things. Will we get control of this little bug that's flying around? How will we address the Chinese situation? A lot of variables in the market, as there always are, and any decision that's made with regard to your long-term investment plan should be made with all of those things in mind.
I always like to share this, and for those that are on again, they saw this the last couple of weeks, and what can we learn from this? And we talked about this a lot as far as focusing on short-term returns and short-term performance. And if the head of this hose is the stock market and the day-to-day action, then a lot of the times the investor is the fireman. And I don't know if there's much more to be said, but try not to look like a fool in some cases, and let the market come to you instead of chasing around. Now, I say that, and I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek, obviously, but there are a lot of opportunities that exist in the market right now. And that is something that I've had a lot of conversations about recently. And the market's bounced back 26, 27% from its low in the end of March. And they're saying, well, now all of those great opportunities, they're past us. They're behind us. But what I've noticed is that there are some of the interesting ones is that, as an example, Netflix, Amazon, some of those have performed exceptionally well during the latest market upheaval. And obviously, for obvious reasons, a lot of people are staying home. You're seeing Netflix spike as far as their subscription rates, things like that. And I think that a lot of times it's those big guys that are actually kind of offsetting some of the returns, because I'm looking at some amazing opportunities in the market that are still down 30, 40, 50, even 60%, that these are discounts in the market. So if you're sitting there and you've got cash, or maybe you want to recalibrate your portfolio a little bit, this is where scheduling a call with one of the advisors is a great time to say, what is out there? What are you guys? What is Keith looking at? And so this is a tremendous opportunity for you to maybe pick up some individual stocks that are potentially on sale. So I'm very, very excited about this, because I do think that some people believe that maybe the opportunity is past. And we're going to get into an opportunity that I think is absolutely amazing. And I'm calling it maybe 2020 is the year of the Roth conversion. But before we jump into that, Keith, is there anything that you want to add as far as what investors can do to equip themselves during today's market?
It's pretty clear that our lives are going to change. They're going to change in quite a few ways that we can't really predict, that we don't even know at this point, because we have never been here before. We've never been in this dark room before. But then along with that, there are some things that we can predict. Who hasn't talked to somebody who's working at home who says, I kind of like this. I'd like it to stay this way. There's really no reason why it can't. Why is that? Because of communication, technology. So think that way. How many jobs are going to, because of this experience, are going to move to home?
Mm-hmm.
And it's communication and technology that makes that happen. It wasn't too long ago that wouldn't have been possible. Now it is. And there are advancements that are happening all the time. My God, how fast technology moves. We can't keep up with it.
Yeah.
working at home we're going to come out of this with that being viable. Okay, and it's probably going to grow in the future, and it's going to be fueled by the ability of communications and technology companies. So that's one thing to look at. And there are other things. Look at yourself, look at your daily life, look at things that are probably going to change. I saw a piece just this morning, and we hit this on the radio. Entertainment. We can't go out to dinner now, and we can't go to the movies. Okay, so how's that going to change our future? Cinemark was out with a piece this morning saying that in the future, it will peg its maximum revenues at 50% of theater sales, 50% of theater seats being sold. Only half of theater seats being sold. And Cinemark said they can make money if only 10% of the theater seats are being sold. Think, once again, bring this into your own world. When are you going to be ready to go to a movie again and sit next to strangers?
And in that dark room, you might grab their popcorn by accident. You want to be sharing that with them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean that's an incredible number, 10%. Can you imagine if the airlines instituted some sort of a policy where they could only have their airplanes 50% occupied? I mean, there's definitely going to be some challenges in the market, and certainly for individual companies for sure.
There was 2 days ago, there was a report that 87,000 people passed through scanners at U.S. airports to get on an airplane. 87,000 people.
Okay.
It was only a couple of months ago that the norm there was 2.1 million. 2.1 million every day. Now 87,000 people are flying. So how do you feel about getting on a crowded airplane? Probably about the same way as you feel about sitting in that theater seat. And so things are going to change in the future. Some of them aren't that complicated. But you know what? Be careful driving the car looking only in the rear view mirror, because there's a 100% chance you're going to get in a wreck. The windshield's like a lot bigger, and that's how you stay on course, and that's how you stay where you're headed. And where you're headed is toward a long-term retirement income plan. And so things like this, these changes that Taylor and I are talking about, if you're smart, you use them to fine-tune that portfolio.
So, let's put this thing in context. I talked about this a little bit ago. Market's down 17%. There's still opportunities out there. Bonds have kind of bounced back. What else can we be doing? How can we recalibrate your portfolio? And I talked about this a little bit to kind of tee it up, and that is this the year of the Roth conversion? Wednesday of this month, yesterday, was tax day. However, with the CARES Act and some of the changes that have happened over the last 8 weeks, is they punted that out to July 15th. That is now the when we have to file our taxes. So with that said, we're on this tax theme this year, and right now taxes are at a ridiculous low. I saw somebody come through the chat, David. I appreciate you chiming in, just about traditional IRAs and Roth outside of the Secure Act, which was back. I believe that was 2019 or 2018, and there was some significant legislation that came through with the CARES Act, which was passed on March 27th. And so with that, there are some significant changes to what's going on inside of our the market fundamentals, but also with inside of your financial plan that absolutely should be looked at in 2020. And we'll talk about this Roth conversion. Right now, taxes are historic lows. Will they stay there? I want to kind of poke the bear a little bit here, and I'm going to put up another poll here for our audience. And it's the question is, where will income taxes go from here?
Mm-hmm.
Will they stay about the same? We know that the current under the Trump administration that's supposed to sunset in 2025. Will they stay about the same? do you expect that maybe the income taxes are going to go higher or lower? I'd love to hear what you have to say and just get your feedback as far as what you're seeing and what you're feeling. All right, we've got it. Early poll results is 100% they're going higher from here. Not shocking, not shocking. All right, staying about the same. I see that we're coming back to somewhat of a reality, but we don't know. Keith, anything to add as far as like what your insights are? I know we've been talking a lot about taxes this week.
Well, to move us ahead in the conversation, realize as you respond to this poll, taxes are about at the same levels now they were in the 1930s. Really, what are the odds of them going lower than this versus the odds of them going higher than this? Think about politics. Think about who is most likely to be elected president next. Then after that, a big change. And what direction is that change likely to push tax rates in? But let's link this whole question about whether taxes are going higher or lower, and we're still at a majority. 77% say they'll go higher and 22% say they'll go lower. So with that said, let's link this back to the fact that when is IRA money taxed? IRA money is taxed when you pull money out of the IRA. Now, when you're doing a Roth conversion, you're pulling money out of an IRA and putting it into a Roth account because the Roth will never be taxed again. You leave it in there for your earnings. You have to leave for 5 years. Your principal you can withdraw anytime, but you're looking at converting money in the IRA into money that will never be taxed again. Now, go back and link these two things together. The lowest tax rate since the 1930s and the possibility to move money out of the IRA and have it never taxed again. There has not been an opportunity like this in our lifetimes.
Yeah. This is also coupled with the fact that the market is lower. And this could be that perfect storm in the best way possible. We've got market being low, tax rates being low, and what is the market being low? How does that equate, or how does that help you from an investment standpoint and with Roth conversions? Well, if you're taking, let's say you bought a stock in your IRA for $10 a share. I'm just XYZ company. And now it's $7, but you still feel like it's a $10 company. Well, you could convert that stock over to a Roth at $7 a share with the idea that if you feel strongly about that company, it's going to bounce back. Then essentially you have a 30% gain that could be not taxed. So with that said, this could be a tremendous opportunity to be able to move investments that you like a lot, or if you're targeting certain investments that you could move into a Roth that have maybe some quote unquote built-in gains, again, use air quotes there, that you could absolutely take advantage of. So I think that it's an unbelievable time, and we've seen this, there's been various opportunities in the past, but this being bar none the best one.
Exactly. And think about it this way. You're one way or another, because of required minimum distributions, which now start after age 72. Okay, you're going to pay tax on that money when you take it out of the IRA.
Right.
Okay, one way or another, you're going to pay tax. Now, here's the IRA, here's the Roth. Your stock has come down, as Taylor says. So its value is less, that lowers the tax. The tax rate is lower than it's been since the 1930s. It's probably lower than it will be in our lifetimes. Okay, so would you rather have that stock, which has come down, go back up in the IRA when you're going to pay more taxes on it because it's worth more when you pull it out to use it just to pay the bills and to enjoy life? Or would you rather pay that low tax now that's lowered because of the value of the investment, which has to be a good investment, that's going to be a good long-term investment? Would you rather pay the lowest taxes since the 1930s on the investment that, as Taylor says, is on sale, the value has come down, switch it over to a Roth and never pay taxes on that
Yeah.
money again.
I'm seeing through the chat box. I love this idea. A gentleman said, remind them that they have to pay tax now. So yes,
Yeah.
you have to pay the tax in the year that you do the conversion. So as an example, if you pay tax, or if you do a Roth conversion in 2020, then those taxes are going to be due in this tax year. So by April 15th of 2021. But the idea is that by that point, hopefully the amount that you converted will hopefully be higher, because as we know over time, markets do go up. It's just a matter of how long is your time horizon. So that's certainly something to be to put out there. I also want to jump to another question there, and that is there an age limit to get into a Roth? Keith, do you want to jump into this at all?
Oh yeah. No, not if you're converting. Now, if you're just putting money into a Roth from earnings, you have to have earnings. So you have to have earned income. But there is no age limit on converting IRA to Roth.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and then there's this other little wrinkle that I want to point out. And this is, again, March 27th. I'm seeing that one of our listeners is very well tuned what's going on right now. And so, Joseph, you're nailing it right here. But right now, what's been going on over since the CARES Act was passed, there's a provision in the CARES Act that suspends required minimum distributions for everybody. So what was it last year that they instituted a delay in RMDs for those folks that they basically delayed them till 70 and a half or 72, excuse me. If you were not 70 by I believe it was December 31st. And what's also happened is now they've delayed or suspended, excuse me, this RMD requirement for 2020. That to me is an unbelievable opportunity. I was just talking to a client the other day who does Roth conversions every year, and we know that he does them. He also has an RMD. And so his comment to me was awesome. He's like, I'm going to double my Roth conversions. He's like, I'm going to leave my daughter with more money that is tax-free. Yes, she will have to pay RMDs on that at some point down the road, but it's going to come out tax-free to her, so long as it's done correctly and it's open for at least 5 years. So what's amazing is this idea of RMDs being suspended might give you that perfect excuse to start that Roth conversion process.
That's a very good point. It's just another reason to consider it. And remember, the RMD conversion should be done with careful consideration of your current position in life and your long-term retirement income plan. To me, one of the ideal scenarios is a person that is going to retire before they start collecting Social Security. Okay, let's say a person is going to retire at 66 and delay Social Security, which will be one of the least taxed sources of income you'll ever have. They're going to delay Social Security to 70, according to maximize that. Okay, so they're going to retire at 66. Well, look at those 4 years. Their tax rate, let's say they're medium to upper income. Their tax rate in those 4 years is going to drop.
Yeah.
And so do a calculation. How much money do you think you're going to want in income in your retired years? Okay. Take that amount, and what if you were to leave in your IRA, leave in an IRA, the amount that will get you the income you want in your retired years. All the rest, consider that a target for conversion to Roth. Now, you might as well leave that money that equals the amount of income you want, because by doing that, you'll be pulling it out in RMDs. And what you do is you match the income to the RMDs. And so you'll be spreading that tax liability out over 25 years. Leave that much there. Take the rest, consider converting it to Roth, and then you can precisely calculate how much you want to convert to Roth every year by looking at the tax tables and bringing your taxable income right up to that marginal level and not exceeding it, not going any higher. So what you're doing is you're taking advantage of the lowest taxes since the 1930s. You're taking advantage of the value of the investments. You keep the investments. You're taking advantage of their value being down, so that's going to further lower the taxes. And then the other hidden thing in all of this is, how do you live those 4 years? You're going to spend down the IRA money to a point where it's going to minimize your required minimum distributions that you'll be taxed on for the rest of your life. It sounds more complicated than it is. It's not that complicated. And Taylor, something that we have to not forget to say: we are not tax preparers. We're not tax accountants. We're investment advisors. We build long-term retirement income plans. And we, in more cases than you would think, we work with clients, tax preparers and tax accountants, in order to make all this happen, in order to make it happen in the best possible way for the client. But we have to say, we are not tax preparers or tax accountants.
Yes, and the thing I will add to that is, we're not afraid of taxes, though.
Right.
And I think that that's the beauty of the things that we do. And so scheduling some time to go over your specific situation is something that we diligently do, and would be happy to do that. We also have a software in our system that is proprietary to just us, that allows us to precisely get to what is a good amount that you can convert without going into that next bracket. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of chat going on with regard to how to pay and when to pay. Because it's a distribution out of your IRA, it's going to show up on a 1099. So that money doesn't necessarily have to be due that day that you do the conversion. You can delay payment until the following year, or when you have to pay your taxes by April 15th. So one thing that you can do is just figure out where you're going to take that tax money, because there is an opportunity cost, or there is a way that it's not free, and you've got to make up that amount that you take out with time. So we want to make sure that a Roth is used and converted correctly. Yes, it sounds like maybe, we're big champions of the Roth conversions, and heck yeah, we are. We love it. Right now might be that perfect, that perfect storm where tax rates are lower, markets lower, deferred RMDs. I mean, all of these things are happening right now, and it could just be that perfect moment. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it makes sense for every single person. I had a call the other day with a client who had listened to one of my webinars, and he had said, he called and he goes, should I be looking at a Roth conversion? And I noticed that there was a question on here, is how much should you convert? So this individual, he's a single guy, or I guess he's about 64 years old, single guy, and he makes good money. He's still working. And so we were going through this calculation, and we found that the way that he was running up right to that 24% tax bracket, and anything higher that he was going to take out would likely launch him into that 32% tax bracket. So all of a sudden, any sort of conversions that he would do would be taxed at that 32%. So nearly a third of those conversions would be taxed. So let's just use some round numbers. Let's say he converted $100,000. Well, oh my gosh, that's a pretty darn big tax bill if you ask me. And so what we did is we plugged that into his retirement plan, and we found that actually doing a Roth conversion did not make sense at his current income levels. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that we can't look at Roth conversions once he's retired and his income drops to a more acceptable level, and I mean that in a lower tax bracket.
Yeah. And that goes to that retire and delay your Social Security. Do Roth conversions in those years when your taxes are going to be way down, and enjoy life. Spend down IRA money. If, once again, work with an advisor that knows the plan. Okay, it's calculated, it's worked out, there are no surprises. Spend down the IRA money. That further lowers your tax numbers out in the future when RMDs kick in.
So I want to jump to our last poll here.
Right.
You have anything to add there?
Okay. Have you?
And the poll, so 70% of people said that taxes were going to go higher from here. Well, that I don't think that that's out of question. So this last poll, I always think is kind of interesting. Do you think the government will kill the Roth IRA soon? So I played around with some of the language here. The Roth IRA is a dead man walking, or the Roth is safe. The government won't touch it. I'd love to hear your feedback as far as what that really means. Keith, you were talking to me. You brought me this question. Share the I guess the comments that you've heard from other people about the Roth, and maybe a little bit of an ill-conceived or maybe a bit of a misguided view of the Roth.
We probably all bumped into people who say, well, Roths aren't going to be around very long. Why? Oh, because government needs that tax money. Okay. And we've bumped into those people as advisors, and I'm sure you've bumped into people that just say that. Interesting what our poll is doing. So we're leaning a little bit toward the Roth is safe, the government won't touch it. Let's see if we can sway that poll. Here's what Taylor asked. The Roth is the way for the government to get the tax money now, instead of over the next 30 years. If the money is left in the IRA, you're going to start at like 3.67% the first year and bump up to 3.68%. And that number is the amount you have to pull out of the IRA, and that's the amount that's taxed. That's how the government gets the taxes that have never been paid on the IRA money. It's spread out so that it pretty much draws the IRA down by the time you're 85 or 90. So think about this. Leave the money in the IRA. The government gets tax revenue on that money a little bit at a time every year between now and the time you're 85 or 90, or offer us a deal. Say, guess what? You convert that money to Roth, pay the taxes on it now, and it'll never be taxed again. Pay the taxes on it now. Those are the magic words. Think about politicians and think about motivations. Does a politician care more about having the tax revenue now to do things to get reelected, or worried about the person who's in their office 10, 15, 20 years from now? So what the politicians did with the Roth IRA is they created a way to take tax revenue from the future and bring it into the present. Roths aren't going to go away. No way.
Yeah, and they're actually becoming, I think, a bigger deal because you're seeing more employees take advantage of Roth 401ks.
401ks, yeah.
Paying, on the way out, or on the way throughout their years. I would say though the one thing that I look at, as you can tell, I'm a younger guy than old Keith over there. He's the sage man, and I'm the young, the energy, I guess you could say.
You're the energy, I'm the empathy, right?
Yeah, there you go. That's what we talk about. Yeah. You provide the sage advice. For individuals like myself, I've got a long investment time horizon, and retirement's very fairly long time away. And so for me, it's this idea of using a Roth as a way to pay tax on the seed as opposed to the crop. But with a Roth conversion, it's sort of somewhere in between. Yes, you're paying tax on the crop in some regard, especially for folks like yourself who are probably closer to retirement. But still, if your time horizon, people are living into their 90s. If you are married, there's a 50-50 chance that one of the spouses, one of the two of you, is going to live to age 90. And so if you retire in your early to mid 60s, which many Americans do, many of our clients do, that means that you could be invested for maybe 25, 30 years potentially. And so if you do a Roth today, gosh, that could have tremendous impact on you in the future. I always say this is my opportunity to kind of turn the tables here a little bit, but I remember as a 16, 17-year-old, my dad and mom would tell me, make sure you make make good decisions, because the decisions that you make now can have an effect on you in 10 and 15 and 20 years from now. Basically they were saying, don't go out and get arrested is essentially what they were telling me. Now, I get to have that same conversation with a lot of folks that are a lot like my parents. My mom and dad are in their late 60s, early 70s. And the Roth conversion is that conversation. Make decisions now that can have tremendous impact on you in 20, 30 years from now, that maybe today it sort of isn't that much fun to pay the tax, but goodness, it could be a tremendous opportunity in the future. And so that's something that I want to put to you as far as, making sure that you schedule that time. We call it a portfolio stress test, but that's just looking at your entire financial plan and doing the stress test there, because there's more than just the stock market. There's other financial planning considerations.
And this is something that we use the technology and use the computers because there are so many variables. And if they enter the variables, it's amazing to watch, to do A/B scenarios. Here's what happens. You can look at a live graph and you can simply change nothing else other than create a Roth conversion plan and enter it into the program and then look at the A/B scenario. My gosh, you get to see the power of compound growth tax-free. Yikes. Sometimes it's unbelievable. And once again, that's not every case. But every once in a while, Taylor and I hit them that, we go back in our chair and we go, yikes, wow. So it's something that you should consider. And once again, just to recap, why should you consider it now? Because we are going through unprecedented times. And there are factors that go into that formula that for a responsible, calculated Roth conversion that are so favorable right now, so favorable. And it's something that you and your advisor, it's something that you and us can look at and analyze and let the machine do the work and let you make the decisions.
Yeah, and I ultimately want to just put this in your head, and that is control what you can control. We've seen tremendous market volatility over the last 8 weeks or so. And that has created some panic, that has created some uncertainty, that has created fear in what's going on out there in the world, both from an economic standpoint, to a market standpoint, to a social and cultural standpoint. And so in your world, control what you can control. And that goes to the decisions that you make. The decisions that you make can have a huge impact on how you feed the either scarcity loop, and that is where fear and anxiety take a hold and lead to bad decisions, or feed the abundance loop, which is good decisions create good outcomes, and those good outcomes create better decisions and more gratitude in the world. And so I just want to put this in your head and say, this is the most important thing that you can do right now, is control what you can control. You can control your situation as it relates to your taxes. A lot of people feel that they have no control over that. And we are here to provide answers and guidance and insight on how you, as an investor, as a person that that is trying to go through this life and retire and have their goals and aspirations, you can control the financial side of what's going on in your life. So remember that you can control the taxes and the Roth conversions, and this just might be one area that you have massive control over and should be considered, and at least sit down with an advisor, whether it's one of us or it's with your own personal advisor. Make sure that you have that clarity and you have that clear direction on what is the best next step for you.
Taylor, an interesting question from Herb. And the question is essentially, when you do a Roth conversion, do you pay withholding when you do the conversion, or can you wait and pay it all next April 15th, leave the funds in for growth in a recovering stock market? That's a smart question. And Herb, you can do either one. You are moving money out of an IRA, and it's your choice. You can say, I want 10% withholding, I want 20%, I want no withholding. That's the choice you're given in pulling that money out of the IRA. So you can do either one. And your question brings up what Taylor was just talking about. An advisor, what we do is run it both ways. Run it with withholding, run it with paying the taxes next April 15th, and see which way you come out ahead.
And so we're coming to the end here. We've got about 5 minutes. I want to make sure that we get to a couple of questions from the audience, from you. But there are ways to connect with us. Obviously, scheduling a portfolio stress test would be a one-on-one discussion with one of our advisors where we can go through and walk through your financial situation, answer any questions, provide insight, guidance, and clarity on how to navigate today's challenging economic and financial times. I will say that if there's other ways, that there are other ways to connect. You can call us at our main office, main office number, 303-694-1600. You can contact myself, which is tleary@presidentialwm.com. That's a great way that if in 24 hours you're walking your dog and you're saying, oh, you know what? I had a question for Taylor and Keith. And so Keith and I will make sure that we are sharing those questions with each other to get good answers and get you the solid answers that you have. You can also go to our webpage, presidentialwm.com. We have tons of content. We host a weekly podcast. We host a weekly webinar on Thursdays, which you're in right now. And then you can also check us out on Facebook and search Presidential Wealth Management. That's where we post a lot of the content that we create. We do our best to do quality content and also authentic. That is that's organic, that we create in-house. So it's experiences that we've had with our own clients that we want to share with people like you and help give you the answers that you need. So check out the offer, schedule your time to meet with one of our advisors. It is a COVID-friendly meeting, meaning that we can either do it over the phone or we can do either a Zoom call or some sort of video chat, whatever works best for you.
Question from, it's Joseph. What might happen, says Joseph, is an annual tax on wealth of 5%. Joseph, that gets into the political aspect. That gets into the political world. It's a fascinating question. Absolutely fascinating.
And it's one of those things that, Elizabeth Warren was talking about that a lot. And it's interesting with Joe Biden being now the Democratic nominee, and he's got the backing of all of those folks that were, how many debates did they have? It felt like they had 5,000 debates. It was kind of crazy.
I think
now that the mud can start getting slung in a different direction, which is going to be ugly. I do want to jump into one question that I'm seeing here is, what do we expect? How long do we expect this to last for? And when they say last, I'm not sure exactly if that means, how long we're under quarantine here or how long, this economic shutdown is going on. But just recently, I think this was in the last few hours, was it Governor Cuomo or Mayor Cuomo? I can't remember, excuse me. New York is shut down until May 15th. So for non-essential work and non-essential businesses, I'm guessing that they're trying to set the precedent. They're also the biggest hotspot here in the U.S. So I'm guessing that they're trying to set the precedent and try to drive the leadership conversation there. And so I wouldn't be all that surprised if we saw Polis here in Colorado do something similar where he pushes it out till May 15th. It's just a very interesting economic time, and the markets bounce back, but to a certain degree, and we still have a long way to go. But could this be a head fake? Could this be the next top, and then we can see some more volatility going from here? I don't know, but this is certainly a time to answer those questions for you.
And we'd love to do that. So in closing, and Taylor, we promised we'd keep it at an hour, and we're about at that now. I would urge you to stay focused on your long-term plan, stay positive, stay engaged, and ask yourself the simple question: are we going to be okay? And if you can't answer that with an unqualified yes, we can help you get there.
Presidential wealth management securities and investment advisory services are offered through Forta Financial Group, Inc., a registered broker-dealer, member FINRA and SIPC.